YouTube, Vinyl Community, Beach Boys fans, random people on the internet, my name is Giggens, and we're here today to talk about the debut album for the Beach Boys, Surfin' Safari, released through Capitol Records in 1962. This particular copy is one of my most prized possessions, if you will. It's a mono copy in the shrink. It's open on the sides, but it's shrinky goodness here. So it's in very, very nice shape. I don't take this out too often, so welcome. How does the air feel? I'm not going to go into the details about how the band came to be. That will be coming up in the Hype Morgan review that I do pretty soon, where I'll talk about the origins of the band, how they came to that recording session, which led them to eventually get to Capitol Records. But anyways, I'll crash outside. This came out October 1st, 1962, where it peaked number 32 on the charts. Not bad for a debut album. And it spent 37 weeks on the chart. Good job, guys. Recorded at the Capitol Tower in mostly August of 1962, bar for the singles that were already released. Surfin', which came out in November of 61. Surfin' Safari came out in June of 62. And 10 Little Indians came out as a single in November of 62. But yeah, most of this album was done in the summer of 62. So this album's fascinating. Beyond the fact that it's their debut, it's just a perspective of these guys and their life where they were at this point. They were just young dudes making music for fun, having a good time, not even thinking about it as like, this is a job we have to do from now on. Like, obviously they went to that eventually, but knowing that they just went into this because they had fun together making music, that youthful spirit is contagious. And is this their best album? No, it's not. Did they grow from here immensely? Yeah. I mean, can you believe that only 4 years later Good Vibrations came out? Like, oh my God. I mean, that kind of growth is unbelievable. It's extremely impressive. The album, it says produced by Nick Venet in the back. Obviously, Brian and Murray did most of it, but they put Nick's name down just because Brian was a newbie, and you know, having his name on the back of a record on the debut, maybe not the best move, but you know, it grew into becoming what it became. But yeah, Surfin' Safari is an unbelievable rock song, and I don't think it gets enough credit for being as impressive as it is, because right from the start you get the overlapping vocals, and you get the stop and start breaks that they did a lot in the early days. But the background vocals are punchy. It's just a steady rhythm. The break in the chorus adds, like I said, that bit of songwriting sophistication that sets them apart from other bands. That little solo shows guitar prowess. I mean, right from the beginning, we're seeing how instantly catchy this group can be, and how iconic they're going to become with that vocal style. You know, when the single came out for Surfin' Safari, it did pretty well for itself. It got pretty national coverage, and it definitely helped get them into the position to do a full album. But, you know, this track really is impressive. It really is. County Fair, another bizarre little curio in their career. I really enjoy Mike's doo-wop lead vocals on this one. And the skits throughout the song are so original. That's not something you hear that often. I mean, there were always bits and pieces of skits in different songs over time, but for a band's first album to already have like a storytelling bend with a skit, pretty unusual. Musically, it's pretty straightforward, but the carnival organ makes you feel like you're actually at the county fair, so I enjoyed that a lot. Decent little song. 10 Little Indians, not my favorite. Can't believe this was a single, but you know, the whole thing is a little rudimentary, but again, they were like 19 years old, so I mean, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. Not my favorite song in the batch. Chuggalog, a little hilarious here. They name check all the guys and their friend Larry about drinking root beer, which I remember reading a long time ago. It was Brian or Mike wanted this to be a single, which is hilarious. But yeah, kind of a nice little song into pre-drugs and alcohol rock and roll, where we're singing about root beer. It's kind of wholesome, if you will. Little Girl, Little Miss America. I really, really like this one. Denny's voice on this, you know, he's already got that little bit of a rasp going on. It's just his natural character, but I like the smoothness to it. This is a really endearing 50s doo-wop inspired track, and his heart's in it. You know, it's just a really nice little song. 409 ends this thing, and what can be said about that charged up intro, and a total standout so far. I mean, this was the B-side to Surfin' Safari, and it really cements their game as like, all right, well, we did the surfing thing, let's write about cars. And that was like, oh yeah, duh. Like they've said a million times, people in like Ohio don't have a beach to go to like the West Coast and East Coast does. And so they did that. I mean, the chorus breaks are infectious, that articulate solo hits all the right spots. It's perfect Beach Boys formula for its time. Side 2 opens with Surfin', which is just another classic piece of, we did this in our living room, which is true. It's the first song, and I'm always going to love it, and I feel like this song, again, needs more credit to where credit is due, because when you think of the Beach Boys, you think of their big ones like California Girls and Good Vibrations. You don't necessarily think about Surfin', but without that song, there'd be no Beach Boys. So this song is extremely important in their career. Lyrically, it's pretty fascinating. I mean, it's almost like a bit of a rap, if you will, the way Mike articulates and syncopates these words together so effortlessly is really cool. It's a song to truly be proud of. I mean, I definitely see how it caught on and had a spark behind it. Heads you win, tails I lose. This song's pretty cool too. A very unusual track, again with more lyrical prowess. Throwing the word arbitrarily, which I think is a fantastic choice of words. But nice chugging guitars on this one. I really like the drumming on this. This nice rock and roll kind of vibe. Impressive little track. Summertime Blues. This is great. I mean, everyone did this song, the old Eddie Cochran song. But Denny's drums sound a little bit shaky on this one, but I kind of like that. It gives it a little bit more of a, we're teenagers type of character. So it sounds a little more garage bandish, which I think is great. Just 5 dudes jamming away. Nothing super impressive on this one. Cuckoo Clock. Brian sings lead on this one. We finally get a Brian lead, and hearing him make the cuckoo sound is great. Hearing him do the falsetto in more of a cartoony way, which is kind of interesting. A song about not wanting to leave your special someone, very Wake Up Little Susie, if you will, before getting caught by the parents. But yeah, cool song. Moondog, here we go, it's a cover of the Gamblers song, and now we're talking. It's straight up surf rock. I mean, that punctual guitar lead that's meant to sound like crystal clear water as the waves are cascading over you as you're surfing underneath it. That pulsating rhythm, it's just a jammer straight through. And then The Shift, which is a song that I always forget exists. It's one of those tracks that I'm always like, oh yeah, that one. Because it just, pew, right over my head. For me, I call this a forgotten deep cut. It's one of those songs that literally no one talks about. But, it's a song about tight dresses on girls. And using the phrase turn me on now is kind of like ahead of its time, too. You don't really hear a lot of songs with turn me on that early. It's a decent little rocker with a good solo. Nothing too impressive. The back cover, you get the great pictures of the guys recording away. And a nice little story about them, which is pretty great. And let me show you. I don't have the original sleeve anymore, unfortunately, because that went out a long time ago, apparently. But yeah, the Rainbow Color Band label, the very first album by the Beach Boys, Surfin' Safari. And side 2. I enjoy this album. Is it something I play a lot? Nope. But when I do play it, I dig it. It's a solid debut, and it's fascinating to see how fast they grew, especially Brian. But I mean, vocally, they grew leaps and bounds over the next couple of years, because between here and 1966, they put out a ton of albums and singles and EPs, and the amount of work that they put into their career in the first 4 years is astounding. So to see them basically like start high school as freshmen and then end, senior year, it's just extremely impressive, the growth that they had. So I like hearing this early influence. I like hearing them so young, because, the only influences they have are from the 50s and, very early rock and roll and doo-wop. So walking into these sessions, rock and roll was so new. And that's fascinating, because you didn't have the Beatles over in America. You didn't have all these giant groups to influence their sound. They just knew what they loved on the radio, and it wasn't like a competition yet. They just wanted to write for themselves and to have fun. And, I mean, David Marks was like 14 or 15 years old. It blows my mind how young these guys were. And the energy is palpable. It's tangible. It's completely there. So Honestly, I'd probably give this album like a 7 out of 10. And not in a bad way. A 7 out of 10 is still pretty solid, but it's not anything higher for me because it's not something I go back to all the time. It's a really decent album, and I do believe it's essential if you're a Beach Boys fan to have this album because you can hear where they came from to eventually the monumental work they put out only in a couple of years later. So that's kind of where I've got to go with that one. So Surfin' Safari, I'm going to give it about a 7 out of 10. Could change tomorrow, but there you go. Let me know what you all think of this album down in the comments. Very interested to hear what you guys say about it. My name is Giggens. This has been the Beach Boys Surfin' Safari. It's been an honor to talk about this record, and back in the sleeve you go. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.